What's up, everybody? I made the perfect sandwich loaf for you, and I'm going to walk you through the steps. The ingredients for my sandwich loaf are laid out in front of me. I have a total of 625 grams of all-purpose flour. I have 195 grams each of whole milk and plain water. I then have 1 stick of melted butter, that's 110 grams. Then I have 8 grams of instant yeast and 18 grams of plain table salt. This is going to be all dumped together and combined for my loaf. I'm going to show you that process next. The process to make the actual dough itself is very simple. All you do is you dump everything into a bowl. I do want to add in the yeast and salt last, just in case the butter is still warm or hot, so that that doesn't kill the yeast whenever I put that in. So, just very briefly stir this together. Once the butter has disappeared, that's when I add in my salt and yeast, just so that the temperature does not end up killing the yeast. Stir this so that it is just coming together. And now that my dough has just roughly come together, it's time to knead. So take some of that extra flour that you have set aside, gather your dough out of your bowl, and this is the most time-consuming part. I'm just going to go ahead and knead. I'm going to speed this up and show you what it looks like before I go ahead and get this into a bowl in order to proof. So my dough is finally done kneading, and I know that because not only am I able to pull it and it is not tearing anymore, but I can poke it and it is bouncing back a little bit. So this is now going to go into a greased bowl. It is going to sit on my countertop for about 2, maybe 2.5 to 3 hours so that it can double in size. The reason it takes so long to proof instead of a normal dough is because you have butter and milk in there. So the enriched dough is going to take longer to rise. So I'm going to show you what this looks like before I am shaping it next. So we're about 2.5 hours later, and my dough has doubled in size. It has completely filled the bowl here. So I want to punch this down and degas it. When that is degassed, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it out onto a floured surface so that I can go ahead and shape this and then put it into an already greased loaf pan. So I just want to get this shaped into a loaf, and I'm going to roll this into approximately the same size as my loaf pan. And I want to make sure to tuck in the sides here and use my board scraper to make sure that it is even and to make sure that everything is tucked in. Then once it's tucked in, I want to roll it over and drop it into my loaf pan. Now I'm going to let this sit and rise again for about an hour before I put it into an oven that is now preheating to 425 degrees. And I want that to preheat the entire time that this is rising, even though that's not going to take the full hour to preheat, because I really want to make sure that the walls of the oven are really, really hot and hold in all of that heat so that we get a nice crust on this loaf of bread. I'm going to show you what it looks like before I put it into the oven next. We are an hour later and you can see that my loaf has redoubled in size. I have some melted butter here that I am now going to be brushing over the top of this. And I'm not going to use all of it. It's about 4 tablespoons. All that I want to do is give a nice coating on this loaf right now. I'm going to save the rest of this melted butter for when it comes out of the oven so that it can then get a second coat of melted butter and really, really become glistening and delicious. The last step after I brush this with butter is to go ahead and take a very sharp knife or a razor blade, and I'm going to just score this so that when it puffs up evenly and I don't have a blowout on either side. So this is now going to go into a preheated 425 degree oven for anywhere from about 35 to 50 minutes to get nice and golden brown. I'm going to show you what it looks like and let you know my time in a few minutes. I have pulled my bread out of the oven, so all that I want to do right now is just brush it down with more of my melted butter from before. Then I'm going to let this sit for about 5 minutes in this pan before I transfer it to the metal wet wire rack that you see right here. And that is how you make my perfect sandwich loaf. I am gonna eat this grilled cheese sandwich. I really hope you enjoy the recipe, but for right now, just enjoy my face.